على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد, إخوة الإسلام عباد الله. This particular video is on the subject of al-muazaneh, and the purpose for doing this particular video is as a result of some individuals that attribute themselves to al-Minhaj al-Salafi having a fundamental misunderstanding as it relates to what al-muazanah is due to how it's translated in the English language, and instead of looking at it from Islamic technical meaning, some people adopt the English translation. They adopt its meaning from a Webster's dictionary perspective instead of looking at how the scholars of al-Islam are explaining what it actually is. And so this is the motivation for doing this particular video. And what is most appropriate to start off with is just to kind of give a brief understanding of what al-muwazanah is. And it is basically to oblige, meaning to make obligatory upon one who criticizes an innovator. And the reason why the person is criticizing the innovator is from the perspective of warning against him and turning people away from him. In this circumstance, the one makes obligatory or obliges the criticizer, the one that criticizes, to mention the good deeds of that innovator along with his evil deeds. And if he does not do this, the criticizer does not do this, then he is one that is committing oppression, and he is one that is that has fallen into sin consequently. He's fallen into sin consequently. This, in a nutshell, is what al-muwazanah is. And to illustrate this, then we're going to take a look at some of the statements of the scholars, some of their verdicts, and other than that, that illustrate that this is exactly what muwazanah is. And from the first things we want to take a look at is we want to go into the book of Sheikh Rabi ibn Hadi al-Madkhali titled Minhaj al-Sunnati wal-Jama'a fi naqd al-Rijal wal-Kutub wal-Tawa'if. And in this book he's refuting Salman al-Auda, who was a caller to al-Muwazanah. And he quotes, there's a particular statement of this individual that Sheikh Rabi is refuting, and so he quotes the statement. So the statement of Salman is, so when an individual is correcting a book, فَلَيْسَ مِنَ الْعَدْلِ أَن تَقُولَ, then it is not from justice. Now this is the statement of Salman. It is not from justice that he says that indeed it includes, or inclusive within it, are ahadith mawdu'a or da'ifa, that there are ahadith or narrations that are fabricated or weak, for example, or that there are opposing opinions. فتذكر الجانب المظلم وتنسى جانبا آخر موجودا في الكتاب. Thus, as a result or consequently, you mention the perspective of murkiness as it relates to the book. You mention the murkiness that's within the book, but you forget another perspective that is found within the book, and it is that the book includes tawjihat mufida, beneficial instructions and knowledge-related research. Salman al-Auda is saying you mention these mistakes, but then don't mention these other things that are in the book? And he continues, so you mentioning half of this book's reality and ignoring the other half of this book's reality, laysa min al-amana. He states, this is not from integrity. This is what he states. He says this is not from integrity. In other words, this is dishonest. This is dishonesty. Why? Because the opposite of integrity or honesty is dishonesty. It's dishonesty. So here is a statement that Sheikh Rabi is refuting, because this individual is trying to oblige another with mentioning the good that is within the book, if you're going to mention the evil or the bad that's in the book, and stating that to not do this is from lack of integrity. Now, to further illustrate this particular meaning, or to illustrate that this is what is intended by the meaning of al-muazaneh, then we want to go to some of the fatwa of the ulama, particularly a fatwa by some fatwa by Sheikh Abdul Aziz ibn Baz, rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh. And it's important for the brothers and sisters to pay attention to the question that's being asked. The question is, there are some people that make obligatory al-muwaazanah, counterbalancing. And then he goes into what is intended. أنك إذا انتقدت مبتدعا ببدعته لتحذر الناس منه يجب أن تذكر حسناته. He states that when you criticize an innovator due to his innovation in order to warn the people from him, it is binding upon you, meaning it is obligatory upon you to mention his good deeds. And if not, then you have oppressed him. If you don't mention his good, then you have oppressed him. This is the question that's being posed to Sheikh bin Baz. So he responds, La ma huwa bilazam. La, no, it is not obligatory to do that, yani to mention the good deeds. ولهذا إذا قرأت كتب أهل السنة وجدت المراد التحذير اقرأ في كتب البخاري. And then he mentions some books of Bukhari and others. He states, it is not obligatory, and on account of that, if you were to read the books of Ahl Sunnah, you will find that the intent is yani at-tahdhir, yani warning. And then he states, so read the books of Al-Bukhari. And he mentions books of Imam Al-Bukhari and other books from other ai that deal with warning against the people of innovation, and that you don't find them mentioning the good deeds along with the evil deeds that they're warning against. Thus, how could it be obligatory to do so? And how could one be sinful if he does not do so? So this is clear as it relates to aiding the understanding of al-muwazanah, obliging one who criticizes an innovator or people of innovation with mentioning their good deeds along with their evil deeds. If they're speaking about them and they intend to warn against them, that they have to mention the good deeds along with the bad. Now we have another fatwa of Sheikh bin Baz, and the question is, بالنسبة لمنهج أهل السنة في نقد أهل البدع وكتبهم هل من الواجب ذكر محاسنهم ومساويهم أم فقط مساويهم? With regards to the methodology of Ahl Sunnah as it pertains to criticism of the people of innovation and their books, is it obligatory to mention their good deeds along and their evil deeds, or just their evil deeds? Sheikh bin Baz, he answers, al-ma'ruf fi kalam ahl al-ilm naqd al-masawi lit-tahdhir. What is well known from the speech of the people of knowledge is criticizing their evil deeds in order to warn, and to make clear the mistakes that these individuals have fallen into in order to warn from these mistakes. As for the good, then good deeds are accepted. However, the intent is at-tahdhir min akhta'ihim, to warn from their mistakes. Al-Jahmiyyah, al-Mu'tazila, al-Rafida, wa ma ashbaha dhalik. Warn from the mistakes of the Jahmiyyah. Warn from the mistakes of the Mu'tazila. Warn from the mistakes of the Rafida. And then he continues, فَإِذَا دَعَتِ الْحَاجَةِ إِلَى بَيَانِ مَا عِنْدَهُمْ مِنْ حَقٍّ يُبَيِّنْ. And if there is a need, if an individual is called, there is a need to make clear what is with them as it relates to the truth, then one clarifies. If an individual were to ask what is with them from the truth, or an individual was to say, in which matters do they agree with Ahl Sunnah, and the one being questioned has knowledge of that, then he makes it clear. However, the overall goal, and that which is most important, is to clarify what is with them of falsehood. لِيُحَذِّرَهُ السَّائِلِ, in order to warn the one that's asking the question, so that he doesn't lean towards the people of innovation, so that he doesn't have any type of affection for the people of innovation. And in this particular fatwa, Sheikh bin Baz mentions that if you're asked about their good, you can mention what they have with them of truth. However, what is understood from the Minhaj of the Salaf, if you're criticizing them, warning the people from their bid'ah, there is no need to mention what they have with them of good. Why? Because it contradicts what it is you're trying to achieve. You're trying to safeguard the people from the filth that they're spreading. But if an individual is to ask, okay, well, do they have this with them, or what do they have with them of the truth? It's okay to make that clear. It shows that it's permissible to say something of their good deeds in a time of need. So it's not understood that al-muazaneh is simply mentioning the good of the people of innovation, then you've fallen into muwazanah. No, that's not what's understood. What's understood by this is making it binding that when one criticizes the mubtadi', that he has to mention his good deeds along with mentioning those evil. And this is incorrect. Why? Because the point and the purpose of a naqd against them, the criticism against them, is to warn others against their evil. And this becomes even more apparent in another fatwa of Sheikh bin Baz, where the Shaykh he states, al-wajib ala ahli al-ilm inkar al-bid'i wal-ma'asi. What is obligatory upon the people of knowledge is to reprimand and disapprove of, or disapprove of innovation and sinfulness and clear and apparent sinfulness by way of evidences of the Islamic legislation, and bit-targhib wat-tarhib, and with good mannerisms. And it is not binding while doing that to mention the good deeds of a mubtadi. However, whenever one who is enjoining good and forbidding evil mentions, yani from this mubtadi, he mentions his good deeds, it's from a perspective of what? Reminding him by way of his good deeds, encouraging him to make tawbah, and that is good. And that is good. And it is from the means that he accepts your dawah and returns to making tawbah. Yani al-ruju' ila tawbah. So the Shaykh right here is stating that in a particular circumstance for the person that's enjoining good and forbidding evil, if he mentions a person's good deeds for the purpose of reminding that person to of his good deeds and encouraging him with tawbah, then this is good in that type of circumstance. This is good in that type of circumstance. So it shows that it's permissible to mention a mubtadi's good deeds if there is a benefit within, if there's a benefit or a need to do so. But stating that it's permissible is different from stating that it's obligatory, to the point that if you don't do it whenever you criticize, that you've fallen into sins or you've oppressed. There's a clear difference between the two. Now, one of the things that has to be pointed out as well is that this is a particular circumstance. Warning against the people of innovation, or criticizing the people of innovation or innovator, for the purpose of warning the people from his bid'ah, or from their bid'ah, and ensuring that the people are safeguarded by turning them away from the innovator. This is a particular circumstance, and to mention the good deeds in this particular circumstance will be contradictory to the goal that one is trying to achieve. However, outside of this circumstance, is it permissible to mention the good deeds of an innovator? Well, when we go back to the fatwa of the people of knowledge, specifically Sheikh al-Albani and Sheikh al-Uthaymin, then we can mention the good of an innovator in two particular situations. One, if you're giving a biography of an innovator, then it is from justice that you mention what was with him. And that is regardless if what was with him is good and evil. You're giving a biography on a person's life. So you're going to mention his good. There are statements of Sheikh al-Albani stating that this should be done in that particular circumstance. You're giving a biography, you're talking about somebody's life. And then in another circumstance will be if you're giving an overall assessment and or evaluation of a person's abilities or a person's actions. Then it's from justice to mention, in this particular circumstance, the good that a person has with them, along with the bad, and this particular circumstance, or these two particular circumstances that I just mentioned, are not the same circumstance that was mentioned prior to these two. And so if you find someone doing that, then this individual, if you find someone talking about the life of someone who was known to be an innovator, and he mentions the good deeds of that innovator because he's talking about his life generally, then he hasn't fallen into al-muwaazanah. He hasn't fallen into that. If you have a person given a general assessment of the ability and or accomplishments, for lack of better expressions, of an innovator, in this particular circumstance, this isn't considered to be al-muwaazanah. On the contrary, al-muwaazanah is obliging others, obliging a person who criticizes an innovator and his criticisms is for the purpose of at-tahdhir. He obliges him to mention his good deeds along with mentioning his evil deeds. And this is something that's not from the Minhaj of the Salaf. Now, I want to quote one more fatwa just to show that the scholars, the people of knowledge, did look at these other circumstances and allow that to be done. And one, we're looking at the statement of Sheikh Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymin, where he states, when you desire or you want to give an overall assessment of an individual, then it is obligatory that you mention his good and evil. That is because this is from the scales of justice. However, when you وَإِنَّمَا نُحَذِّرُ مِنْ خَطَأ الشَّخْصٍ, whenever you warn or we warn from the mistakes of an individual, فَنَذْكُرْ الْخَطَأ فَقَط, then we mention the error and that's it. We mention the error and that's it. لأن المقام مقام تحذير, because this situation is a situation of warning. ومقام التحذير ليس من الحكمة فيه أن نذكر المحاسن. And when you're dealing with a situation and or circumstance of warning against another, then it is not from wisdom that we mention his good deeds, yani within this particular circumstance. And that is because if you were to mention his good deeds, then the one who is listening, he will remain confused. He will remain confused. Why? Because you're contradicting yourself. You're praising or you're mentioning the good person, that the person's good deeds, the innovator's good deeds, while at the same time you're warning against him. And so the listener is confused. He doesn't understand which way he should be going. Should I stay away from him, or should I go benefit from him? And thus forth and so on. So anyway, this is a brief summary of what al-muwazanah is. It is basically stating that it is obligatory for one who criticizes an innovator to mention, along with his evil deeds, his good deeds. And if one does not do that, then he is considered to be one who is oppressing that innovator, and one who is falling into sin, and one who is dishonest as it relates to the Islamic legislation. This is al-muwazanah. When you hear the term al-muwazanah, this is what is intended. And Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala knows best. Now.